There's a verse in the Bible that says that nothing can separate you from the love of God. And it lists a whole bunch of stuff. Nothing. Time, distance, space. Nothing can separate you from the love of God. Why is it then that there are so many sins in our churches that are unacceptable? I was once speaking to a pastor, and this guy was a good man. And he was talking about this time that there was a guy that was new to the church, and somebody was like trying to get him to make a declaration. He was like, I claim God's authority over my life, and I stand against evil and the devil and all that sort of stuff. Now, we're a minute in, but I need to say that even though my faith is not shattered, I see it through the lens of my shattered psyche, my mental illness. And that's what this is all about. So this guy's in church and they're saying, okay, we want you to, tell the devil he has no power over you. And he shouts out, F of you, devil. And of course, you drop an F-bomb in church and people are going to lose their minds. The Blue Hair Brigade is going to be so completely outraged. There's going to be committees. There's going to be people talking about it. Why? Now, I'm not one to advocate for swearing. I'm not saying that swearing is a great thing. I'm also not saying that it's a deadly sin. But say you're pastor. I was in a church in America, and a pastor was going through a really hard time. There was a lot going on in the church, and he was struggling, and there was things going on, and it was spiritual, and he was just losing his focus. And he said the word damn in Australia. I got kicked out of a house. I was living as an exchange student in America, and I was living with these fundamentalist Christians. They were hosting me, and they tolerated me coming home late. Their son was a homebody. Their other son had an intellectual disability, so they were a very tight-knit, close family that did everything together. They accepted that I wasn't in that mold, but they kicked me out before Christmas because I said hell. So what the hell is going on here? Something like that. Nothing can separate us from the love of God except a swear word, a curse word. Really? And why, as Christians, are we so? Why did these people boot me out of their house? Like, quite literally. I'm not exaggerating. Maybe it's figuratively. I don't know. They did. They actually booted me out of their house. I was standing on the side of the road with a suitcase and a backpack on it was either Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve, and I was standing on the side of the road in the snow, putting quarters in a phone, trying to call people to ask if I could stay with them. I've got nowhere to go because I said hell. Now, this guy in this church, this pastor's telling this story about this guy that's going to F off you, devil, and he loved it. Yes, there was better ways to say it. But you know what? It didn't disqualify him. It didn't make him any less of a person of faith because he swore. I mean, I grew up in church, and tell you what, if you ducked outside to have a smoke, there was people that were questioning whether you really were saved. Well, they're out there smoking, and we're Christians. Nothing can separate us from the love of God except for an F-bomb or an occasional smoke or a beer every now and then. Christians are the most judgmental people. And the fact of the matter is, the world knows this. The world knows that we're judgmental. Now, when the whole yes no debate was on, I would say I said no. I voted against same sex marriage. Now, it's gone through. It's done. It's a done deal. It's in our society. I am not going to protest it. I am not going to stand against it. I'm not going to put up signs and say I think it was wrong. I'm not going to do that. That's not my job as a person, as a man, and as an Australian, as a Christian. Why would I care about that? But whenever we said no, people jumped on us because they didn't realize that it was more about us than it was about them. Like, we don't care what you do in the privacy of your own home. That's between you and whoever you're with. I don't care about that. Just please don't inflict it on me. And that was the biggest fear for Christians, was this whole, are they going to make, are the gays going to make us have gay weddings and stuff? Now, look, I'm not in leadership in a church, and these are questions I don't need to answer and I don't need to have an opinion on. I know what I believe, but it's for me personally. Now, that is a really interesting question, though. What do we do about LGBT people in church? Can they still be Christians? Are they still Christians? What about an LGBT church? I don't have the answers to these questions, but I do know that the world is so ready for Christians to judge them because that's what we do. We judge people. Who is supposed to be the judge? Well, Jesus said, don't judge lest ye be judged. Now, Jesus never went to, it's not recorded that he ever went to where the prostitutes worked. He never went to the tax collector's office. Where did he meet them? He met them in their off hours. He met them when they weren't on the job because it wasn't appropriate for him to be in either place, because most prostitutes in Jesus' time were part of the temple worship. And tax collectors worked for the Romans, and you didn't want to be seen as being too closely allied to either of those things. Be ye in the world, but not of the world. Why is it for Christians that places like the Salvation Army and St. Vincent de Paul are so accepted? Now, the Red Cross is called the Red Cross because it's a Christian organization. That was how it was birthed. That's why in the Mideast they had to have the Red Crescent, because the Red Cross was, yeah. Why is it that these organizations thrive and succeed? Because they help people without judgment. There is no judgment there. There's no, I'm going to do this for you, so that means you have to show up at my Tuesday morning men's group. So, no, I'm just going to do this for you because I love you and I don't want anything back. There's nothing you need to do. Imagine if we took that into church. Remember one time you were in church and maybe you were singing, you're having a lovely worship time, and somebody needed to get to a seat that was past you. Maybe that person had a flat tire on the way to church. Maybe they were on their last rung. Maybe they were contemplating suicide the night before. Maybe they were committing a sin the night before. And where have they come to? They've come to the temple, come to the place where they expect to find God. There's an old They'll know that you are Christians by your love one for another. And here's a little anecdote. Of course, it's powerful because it's probably true. It's probably happened. There's a guy. His wife has left him. He's not getting on with his kids. His job sucks. He shows up to church. It's the last roll of the dice. He's got nowhere else to go. Goes to church, and in the middle of the third song, the choir one, his phone goes off. He forgot to put it on silent. And his ringer is loud. Maybe he's a bit deaf. Maybe it's an important call. Maybe it's one of his kids. And he never puts that call on silent. But it's in the middle of the third song. People are worshiping. People are spending time with their Lord and Savior. And his phone goes off. Well, the people around him are going to scowl. If there's a pastor or a minister, he's going to turn around. He's going to find out who is disturbing everybody's worship. This guy is not going to be able to take this call. Not without pouring scorn upon his head. And then he's going to sit there for the rest of the service with people glancing at him, people looking at him. People wondering who that ignorant person was that left their phone on while I was trying to worship my Savior. And this guy is embarrassed and he's hurt and he's just been rejected by a whole nother place, by a whole hall full of people, a whole room full of people. After church, he decides, I'm going to stop in and have a beer at the pub. Gets his beer. Publican, get up, mate. What can I get you? I'll have a beer. Oh, no worries. Here you go. Publican looks at him. You doing all right, mate? Like, yeah, I'm okay, mate. Thanks. All right, mate. Here's your beer. Guy goes, he's about to sit down, and he trips. And he spills his beer on this guy's arm. And this guy is he's nicely dressed. But the guy looks at him and he realizes that this was an accident. This guy didn't mean to pour beer on him. He stands up. The guy is shocked. He's horrified. He just spilled his beer. Maybe he didn't get something more expensive because maybe he is struggling a bit financially. Now he spilled his beer. He's embarrassed. He's ashamed. Everybody in the pub knows that he's done it. The publican comes around with a towel. It's all right, mate. No problem at all. Wipes him down. The fella who got the beer tipped on him. It's like, oh, mate, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's no problem. Guy's apologizing. I'm so sorry. Everybody's like, dude, it's okay. It was a mistake. Don't worry about it. The publican picks up the spilt glass, goes, fills it up, brings it back to him. You're all right, mate. It's all good. Guy goes to pay. He's like, no. It's all right, mate. You spilled it. Don't worry about that. The guy has received love. He has received respect. He has received instant forgiveness in a pub. I challenge you now, Christians. If somebody let their phone go off during the pastor's message, during the slow songs in your church, would you judge them, send them out, criticize them, hurt them? Or would you say, oh, mate, it's okay. Dude, it's all right. It's no problem. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Why is church not like that? Why is it that as soon as somebody falls in church, they are Dunskies? And that's what I want to talk about next time. What happens when the righteous fall?